And good morning. This is the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Itaya, and I would like to welcome you to the show today. It's a Friday, the last Friday in October, and we're excited to be here. My name is Rotimi Itaya, once again, streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to West Africa to the entire world. And I have with me on the show this morning Ugochi the Safety Chick. Ugochi, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Ritimi. I'm very well, thank you.
Great to see, great to have you, great to hear from you. And it's been a fantastic time. Please, I would like to just recognize our audience online. If you're streaming with us, if you're connecting with us, please do let us know where you're connecting from. Tell us your name, tell us your location. Let us have your conversation and questions. If you must have questions, please do not hesitate to ask us your questions. And so we can share together. I hope and I believe it's going to be a great time today. We will be speaking on a very important subject or subject matter today. And as we address that, I believe that you'll find that useful, you'll find that fruitful. Without wasting much time, what we do on the show is to go straight for the news, review the news, and then come back to discuss the matter today. Just in case you're wondering what we'll be talking about today, we will be speaking about changing your reality, changing your reality. And our experts and analysts, our strong voices, will be joining us as we deliberate on this subject matter today. So, once again, thank you for joining. Welcome, everyone. I say good morning to you. And of course, we ring the bell of blessing to you. If this is your first time, please do let us know so that we can appreciate you and also celebrate you. So, thank you once again. Good to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. So, let's take the news and then we'll be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Gochi, do you want to share with us headlines quickly?
Okay, so first off, I'm happy that schools are reopening on Monday because we've experienced too much disruption this term already. So I'm just hoping that this time around, nothing happens again. Let's just end the term smoothly in December, just so that the children have some semblance of normalcy. Then another thing that got my attention was ICPC discovering about 5.17 billion naira fraud Like we're complaining that we don't have enough resources and that we don't even have enough infrastructure. Then the resources that are available are being used for something else. Like that's not good enough. I'm happy it was uncovered, but more importantly, I would like that they get to the bottom of it, recover the monies, because one thing that keeps happening in this country is you keep hearing that a fraud was discovered, but then you don't get to hear how it was recovered and how it was used where it was supposed to be originally used. So I think that that finishing has to happen properly, because the truth is the education sector and the agri sector really needs that money. So if that money is pumped in, there's a lot of change that can happen. So ICPC should make sure that they finish this properly. They finish it properly. It's not just enough that it was discovered. It should be recovered. People, how the perpetrators are punished, and money returned to the various units so that it can be used for development. Then another thing that got my attention was the inability to write memos that is affecting nutrition program in a particular state in the north. Like that is embarrassing. That is embarrassing, because for the nutrition program to exist, it's because there's a glaring shortage deficiency in that area. And then for inability to write memos to be the reason why such an important program is being stalled, that is that is so inefficient, that is so embarrassing, that is not good enough. We shouldn't be hearing something like that in 2020. By now, if it's a program that has happened for a period, by now there should be a standard way of writing memos that is acceptable, that everybody knows about, and that should be done by whoever is holding that position and whoever is in that department. It shouldn't be a case that it is getting into the news. Inability to write memos, that's just too embarrassing. Yeah, those were the ones that really got my attention. Mr. Ritimi. Mr. Ritimi, are you still there? Okay, so it seems like the network has taken Mr. Ritimi out, and some of our other analysts are backstage. And I just finished talking through the major points of the news that got my attention. And the topic of today, well, I'll just start with the topic of today so that at least we keep speaking until he's back and the others can join us. So today's topic is changing your reality. And that just presupposes that you already have something that you are already doing. There is a situation that you already find yourself in, but then you're already thinking of how to change it, how to move from where you currently are to the next level. And I think that this is a very important topic, most especially because of what we have gone through this year. 2020 has been a whole decade. It has been a whole decade in itself, right? So much has happened. And aside the fact that so much has happened, there's also been a lot of changes. And because of the changes, some people were able to meet up, some others were not able to meet up. And so because of that, here in 2020, we have a lot of people who have very mixed feelings about how 2020 has been for them. We've heard people say 2020 is cancelled. We've heard people say, this 2020 should just come and be going. We're tired. We just want to get into 2021. Now, the thing is, Whether we're in 2020, 2021, or 2022, if you as an individual, you have not made certain changes on how you want to be seen, or the kinds of things that you're trying to achieve, or the kind of impact you're trying to make, if you are not clear on it, no matter the year that we are in, you still find yourself in the same situation. So it's really important to begin to think strongly how to change your reality. And changing your reality for 2021 starts now. It's not too early to plan. I've been saying it. In fact, is it last week or 2 weeks ago? I had to tell my mentees that next session we're going to have, everybody should come with their plan for 2021. And I didn't just tell them to do that. I gave them a book to read. So there's this brilliant book by Brian Tracy called Goals. If you don't know how to set good goals or realistic goals, I think you should please check that book out, because one of the things that can help you with changing your reality. Good morning, Ma. You're welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Oh, you're
Good
welcome.
morning. Good morning, KK. Ugochi, good morning. I'm here. I've not been well. I have not been well, but I'm strong now. Yes, I am. I'm good now. I'm good now.
Okay. Thank God. Thank you.
How are you girls doing?
Very well. Okay.
Where's the boss man? Where is he?
Network took him out because he was here during the news, and then he's out.
Oh,
yes.
okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Thank you. So today's topic is changing your reality, and I was just doing an introduction before you guys came on. And one of the things I was saying is the fact that the first step to even changing your reality is even setting goals, because you need to understand what is that thing about your reality that you want to change. Then where do you want to go from there? And I find that many times when people are setting goals, they are not setting practical goals. And because they're not setting practical goals, that's why the goals do not work. So a key way to to change your reality is to set practical goals. And when you write down your goals, you must write down steps that would help you to achieve that goal. It's not enough for you to just write a goal and then you're out of there. Oh, I want to make 1 million by the end of 12 months. It doesn't work that way. How? You have to be able to put the steps. And then there is something again that is so powerful about changing your reality, which is your subconscious. Anything that the way you feed your subconscious does not know whether it has happened yet or if it is still in the future. And so it's very important that when we're setting our goals, we're breaking it into steps, we use present tense. We talk about it in the present, so that it's almost like you're telling yourself, this is what we are doing, even though you are not yet doing it, but it just has a way of communicating to yourself that this is what we are doing. So, for example, you want to say, oh, in the next 12 months, I want to become more fit, I want to become more healthy. So how would you do it? Instead of just saying, I plan to drink water every day and cut carbonated drinks, you will say, I drink water. As you make it like present, active, like it's already happening. I drink more water. Yes, I drink more water. Yes, I exercise maybe once a day for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because again, it's important to put a timeline to whatever you're saying, so that your body is beginning to recognize that, okay, this is what we are doing. This is what we are doing. It's almost like you're speaking to yourself. Because what happens is what our subconscious ends up driving our engagement. So it's one thing to write those goals. Then the next thing that is so important about changing your reality is visualization. A lot of people do not understand that visualization is so powerful. Many times we just write and we stop there. It's not enough. You've got to also visualize. Welcome, sir. So I'm fitter, I'm more healthy in the next 12 months. What does that look like? So you imagine yourself with that good body that is healthy. Because it is healthy, you are not prone to underlying health conditions, you are drinking more water, you have more energy to perform your task. So you just imagine that end product and the more you do that, you are sending a message to yourself that, oh, this is who I am. So somebody said, if you want to lose weight, think thin. Think thin. So it's almost like you're already imagining that you have gotten to your end goal already. And visualization is so powerful, because once you have written those practical goals down and then you begin to visualize, somehow, even if you never see that book where you wrote it again, the next time you check that book, you will see that you have inched closer towards achieving that goal. That is if you haven't even done it. It's so powerful. So yeah, I believe that these are critical steps when we want to change our reality. So Mr. Rotimi, I'm handing it back to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why
powerful.
I've always been here, but you failed to notice that I was here. So thank you so much. Welcome, Rhoda. Welcome, AK.
Thank you.
You know, Rhoda made a post some days ago and said, and you were reiterating the fact that the future is female.
That's right.
And I said to myself,
yes,
I said to myself, I said, okay, I'm going to take Rhoda up on that post, and I did.
Right.
And then I did a rethink, and I said, okay, I'm not going to say that the future is not female. The future is female, and then I'm going to add a clause to it. So I'm not going to say that online because I know that you're just recording.
Yeah, so.
All right, but really, back to the conversation of today. And I want to add to what Safety Chick just mentioned, because a lot of times what we try to do on the show is not just to get people to understand the importance of things, but to move away from just understanding to begin to integrate or apply those things to their realities as well. So changing your reality, it's something that has to do with perception, right? I believe that when you change your perception, you ultimately change your reality. And perception actually is the fulcrum of visualization, just like Ugochi mentioned, because there are many times we visualize, but we are not conscious of the focus in what we are visualizing. So visualizing has to do with the mind, has to do with the eyes, has to do with your thought and thought pattern, has to do with imagery, has to do with the way you internalize things. They call it your internal filtration system. So when you try to visualize, right, the key thing behind the visualization is your perception. So if I visualize into the future and my perception is low or wrong or bad or poor, what I will have as an imagery is more or less something that might not deliver the best kind of outcomes that I desire. And that's why sometimes a lot of people hear quotes and statements and principles and solutions from different experts and thought leaders, and they feel that it doesn't work because they look at the points, but they do not look at the depth behind the point. So imagine someone is thinking about what Ugochi says, you want to lose weight, and you're thinking thin, and you're thinking slim, and then you now hear the word visualize. And someone might get to the point where he begins to try to visualize and doesn't understand how to visualize. You know, visualization is not just the definition of it, right? Ugochi, can you visualize being in Canada or being or becoming a billionaire, like some people will sing that they want to be a billionaire? You know, visualize it, and you find out that for the one that doesn't know the how and the way to go about it, that visualization will just turn out into frustration. You know, you have to think about it. Or you do
What you mean?
No, well, I'm just trying to visualize the conversation that you know. So just like you're trying to visualize Safety Chick's smile, and when you keep hearing me saying that she has a killer smile, her dentition can actually blow your vision. You know, someone can't visualize until she puts off the camera and then puts on the camera, and then she now smiles and now says, "Oh shit!" Now until you see that, Yeah, you know what I mean.
Oh,
Okay, so
man.
over to you, Rhoda. Welcome to the show. So let's talk about changing your reality, especially as educators. Practical side of it is how do we create a case for change? How to get to that point where people want that change, right? How do we create a case for change?
Oh, was that me?
Yes, please.
Creating a case for change. I think I just want to really definitely jump on what Ugochi said about being able to visualize things. I honestly think that a lot of
Hello, Rhoda.
times where
I think you can
okay.
go on.
Oh, okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh, I thought you said Rhoda actually.
Okay. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can. It's
Yes, I
clear.
can
Oh,
hear
okay,
you.
good. Oh, okay, good. Okay, good. All right. So, actually, I was saying that I want to jump on what Ugochi had said about the visualization part. I actually do think that a lot of times where like visualization hungry or sick, and or let me even say this, where visualization deficit, or there's a deficit in our visualization, quotient, and it's not so hard to tell why, because you're surrounded with so much we're largely surrounded with a lot of things that are not well done. And so when you get used to living in a jungle, it's hard, I mean, for you to adjust. I mean, we know the story of Tarzan, and it's just really true about how that is of human nature and kind of like an adaptation. So when hunger and strife and pain and becomes your the culture in which your medium it stays in, it's also always very difficult. But I mean, making that case for change, I mean, I'm going to definitely jump on the fact that we have to really start from, and as a country, we have to really start from being able to say that this is possible within this country, or this is possible within my school system. Because that saying, they say thoughts are things. And I can even use myself as a story. Many times, in fact, where I am today, I won't lie to you, I literally knew that I was going to be here today doing what I was doing, because it has been the character of my mind. My mind will always tell me, I say, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. So it's not about the what, it's also about the how. And usually I'll tell my son all the time, like, I feel whenever he wants to be a bit lazy, I'll like go out and flip out my words, and I say to him, anytime you say you cannot do something, it's because you don't want to put your weight through it. Because the moment all the people who say I can, I will execute, they are willing to put their weight through it. And so when you say I can, what it does to you immediately is that you literally list 1 to 5 things that will make you do that thing, and literally things list 1 to 5 things that will stop you from doing it. And then you go after defeating the ones that will stop you, whilst you're aiming for the ones that will get you going. And so making a case for change really is something that in this our country is a challenge that we are having to deal with. And case for change examples, many times that we've seen in different parts of the world, in countries that things have worked in, they always go for the reasons. They always go for the reasons. Okay, for example, what you have to explain the reason why for your change. You have to also include your internal and external drivers. So all those things, like, what is the reason why you want to change? Because sometimes that's a challenge. You want to change, Okay, why? Why? What's the reason? And then, because like you need to also determine what are the internal and external drivers. What will internally make you go for change, and what's external going to make the change happen? And then we also have to really, every time making the case for change, you have to then highlight the benefits, because you want to carry the country along, you want to carry the school along. But if you're not carrying everybody along in the process of change, it's hard. So you really need to highlight the expected benefits, and your desired outcomes. You have to highlight those two. Because my internal drive, there's an external drive, the community, What are they coming with me? Look, some of the solutions we've deployed fall flat when our partners in driving that change are not sold out, and so it makes it difficult. It makes it difficult. So we need to also highlight what this case for change is, and especially what the benefits are. So I guess I'll stop there. I don't know if it's and one thing I think I need to also speak about when it comes to making the case for change is to demonstrate leadership. So that will be my last point, like to demonstrate leadership for change. It's very difficult in Nigeria to go for, like now we can see the NSAS riot, and then people were asking for leadership. And they're asking for leadership because we want some change. And then now in that conversation of looking for a leader, who is going to be a leader, people don't understand that there's a different kind of leadership. Leadership doesn't always have to come with one person as showing off as the champion for the change. Leadership is you and me, and and our strategy in coming to a solution. And so that's in the form is a different. I believe that a real revolution that will happen in a country like Nigeria, if at all, is the type that has never been seen before. So it's contextual change.
Fantastic. So let's welcome Titi to the show. Titi, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Titi.
Morning, Titi.
Good morning, my cousin Gochi. And especially Rhoda. We missed you, Rhoda.
Oh, we missed you all too. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Why did Rhoda do the
Yeah, I had to. She said my cousin. I was so emotional.
Don't worry now. Is it not social media?
Yes, there are cousins everywhere.
111.
Yes.
Now 111. You need a cousin, we'll be there.
We'll be there.
All right. So speaking on changing our reality, I love the way Gochi and Rhoda has kind of set the ball in motion for every one of us. People need to realize the reasons for change. People need to probably also get to identify or highlight the benefits for change, because what would drive people towards change will be those elements, as it were. But then a lot of times, I'm sure we might have come across a reality in ourselves or probably in others where some people don't just get bothered, or they don't feel, what's the fuss about? What will be, will be. Who knows? Maybe this is the end of the world. What's the fuss about? All this jump here, jump here, jump there. What do we have to do when it comes to that? Of course, everybody can't change at the same time, or maybe KK will help us, because I think that is what actually introduces the concept of early adopters, late adopters. KK, over to you.
Okay, hi, good morning once again, everyone.
Good morning.
Is that me having that feedback? Okay, no, it's not. Okay, so the thing with change, right, and making a case for it and getting people to buy into change is they first of all need to see the reason for the change. If I don't understand why I need to change, then it's going to be a difficult sell. No matter how fantastic it is, right? So there was a course that I took, and one thing that they said, it was leading change actually, and school management course. And something that they said, which I found really profound, is the fact that as leaders and as change makers, as people who are at the forefront of change, sometimes you have to ripen the change. What does ripen it mean? What it simply means is you need to move the change such that people can see it quickly enough. So let me give you an example. You've requested that ACs need to be serviced, and I mean, I know this is just a really tiny change, you know, in a sense, but let me just permit me to use it as an example. Yeah, and you've talked and talked about this, and nobody seems to be buying it. So instead of you having your next meeting outdoors, usually you guys go and spend money and rent a hall. It's nice and cool and lovely. Don't do that. Have the meeting in your school hall. That way, when people are sweating and wiping their faces, they quickly see that, oh, these ACs you said we needed to change, it needs to happen now. Because if you don't feel the effects of the current reality, you have no reason to want to move to a new reality because it's working. I mean, our comfort zones are called our comfort zones for a reason. They're comfortable. Why should I want to move out of a place where I'm so comfortable? It's not going to happen, except I am literally kicked out of it, or I see that I am holding on to a shadow. So, right, so in making that case, in pushing people and creating it, we need to ripen it. You need to ripen it and get people to buy into it. So John Cotter says, create a sense of urgency. And that's the same thing that I would say. Look within your system and say to yourself, how do I create a sense of urgency? So that people understand that, look, I do not have to set a question and mark it to assess a student. I can simply listen to them, and by listening to them, I am already assessing them, because that is the reality I want to see, not something that they've crammed and they're putting on paper. Right? So that for me is how you can get people to buy into change as quickly as possible. Thanks, Rotimi.
You know, Keke, thank you so much for that, because, you know, I really just that example of making everybody feel the benefits of change when it comes is so hugely helpful. With the example that you gave with, you know what, we need ACs, right? Or we need this, everybody's going to feel the heat. You know, it's so powerful. Because for me, I had a very nice conversation with one of my colleagues not too long ago, and she was struggling. She's seriously struggling with, you know, the hierarchy in her school, in trying to determine what's the best kind of school experience or the content experience that children should be having in their school. And she's trying to drive for change. And so while they are stuck on making sure that during online learning that everybody's going through now, their focus, sometimes they're losing focus and saying, okay, let the children, they must have their handwriting class. And she's kind of like wondering, wait a minute, is that really what we need right now? Like, why is the focus so much on that? Why are we trying to be so stuck on, first of all, it's so tedious to get children to, first of all, they do the writing on their own at home, then they upload the picture of their work, and then you know, and then she started to think, like, is that really what we want these kids to do? In the first place, what is it? These children will never have a need to handwrite. Like, it's so alien to their future world of work. And then she's asking herself, at some point, what would be the, like, what's the intrinsic for her? Because she knew that, I mean, external motivation or external reasons for getting them to do that becomes like weird. You know, so no real balance there. And then she says, okay, what's the intrinsic thing? Like, what does it do personally for the person? You know, that for this time when everyone is going through a pandemic, forced to learn at home and this and that, you know, and she's struggling. She's really struggling. And so sometimes this change, as small as they sound, like the example of this handwriting and, you know, exactly being a hot, is the same thing in the bigger picture, where you are now telling people that, see, this is time for you to shift your mindset, to know that, you see, this traditional method that you have been applying for decades is not working or is not reflective of this person's reality. And then you're stuck. So thank you for that example, honestly.
Thanks.
So the topic is getting to the source point, you know, that juicy part. And that's why I'm excited about the next question I'm going to ask, because of the next person I'm asking. And that's Titi.
My cousin.
And there's no relational.
If you ask me any jam question, I will throw it back at you.
See, yeah, you passed jam. Come on.
Exactly, Rhoda.
Yeah, beginning to change your style. Yeah, say you. Who does passing back here? All right,
Yeah, I'm just saying.
quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So changing your reality. Now we've heard a lot of principles from KK, from Rhoda, and from Ugochi. So let's use that into like a more or less like a case study. So what do you think should form the top three realities that educators should change? And I mean things that probably will be a common denominator to both educators within the public and the private space. What do you think should form their top three agenda for a change in their reality?
Oh.
This is a jump question.
Oh, you see now. Okay, let me look at what everyone has been saying. And I think I'll take my cue from what KK said. Sometimes you need people sitting in the heat for them to realize that we need to change the AC. And I think one of the things is like when you go and let's say you get teachers or educators to how will I say peep into an interview process. You know, when someone is interviewing, a corporate person is interviewing someone that was like a first class citizen, came out with a first class degree or something, and as they ask the questions, they see how the reality is that it's not about someone that has um it's not about someone that has gotten a paper degree, but it's someone that can solve a problem. I think that's the first thing. So when you allow people to see that reality of what we need, it's the same thing with this COVID. I think COVID has shown that when push comes to shove, it's not about first class in this. It's not about, it's the fact that our lives will constantly be bombarded with issues that are unknown, issues that have not been pre-taught in class, so to speak. And in the end, it's an ability of someone to see the dots, see patterns, envision the future, and quickly come up with possible options. That's really what COVID. So if we can, do a documentary, so to speak, of this COVID and then show educators, and not just educators, show the world of what we are talking about, the reality of what we really need for the future. That imagine if this COVID happens again and again, what is really the most important thing? It's no longer being able to it's not being able to cram, it's not being able to memorize, it's not even about fine handwriting. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing about change is the same thing. I don't know who said it, but it's really about helping them see that future. So like the first thing I've said is that putting them in a situation almost like a documentary where they can see what we need for the future. The second one is helping them try and envision the future. When we watch a lot of this science futuristic films, they always seem as if they are far-fetched, but most of the time they're the ones that light a fire in the mind of somebody. That's really the truth. That really what does it take to make cars fly? What does it take to have a computer that you don't really need to have the physical thing? Where is just a screen in front of you and you're touching it? Really, the future allows you to envision what change should be like. And I think we need here in Nigeria to see a lot of more futuristic schools. Schools that are really doing things that we can't even begin to dream about, and how they are thriving. When we go for webinars and they bring people from Finland or bring people from other places that are doing things that we haven't even started dreaming about, it really helps. And the last thing I would say is just the use of technology. I think just showing how children are using technology, even children that we didn't teach. Let me give an example. My husband says that he said something to me yesterday. He says that our son, there's a way he said, he says every every lazy feature of the Apple device that my son seems to have the knack to find it. That's the way he describes it. That every feature that Apple has put there for the lazy person, that our son has this way of finding. My son can, if you say, Toby, go and search for something on Google, my son will never type. He will use voice. Say,
Voice.
Google, meaning of, you know, even things that we didn't even know you could use. He will say, Google meaning of, oh, boy, type this thing. Oh, no, he won't type it. I say, oh, Toby, your spelling is wrong.
Wow.
I say, your spelling is wrong. Go and check the correct spelling on Google. Google spelling of. Do you understand? And it's like
Titi, you are waking the lioness in me. So when you finish,
so what I'm just saying is someone gave him an Apple Watch. Oh boy, all the lazy feature. You know, that's what my husband was saying. How does someone discover all the
Titi, it is not lazy feature.
What I'm just saying is that there was someone that said that if you want to find the smart way to work, employ a lazy guy. You know, he almost will find the shortcut, the smartest, most effective way of doing something. So I want to then say, so that's what I'm coming back to, you know, to say that this is really what we need. Sometimes we old ones are, you know, that handwriting. And I looked at it and said, you know what, me that I'm disturbing my son on this handwriting, really, really, if I envision a future, let me be honest with myself, I do not see any handwriting. Even me now, do you know I have a problem with signing my signature? Because I've not signed it in a while. The last time they gave me something, they said my something was irregular. I had to
because it's an obsolete skill. It's obsolete.
I had to practice it before I got the thing right, because I was trying to open an account. But before then, I had not had to sign my signature in I will not be in years, apart from opening an account, in years I've not had to sign it. So it just, when I looked at it, when I really envisioned the future, yes, I want him to have a fine handwriting, you know, as a proud mother, to be looking at his notes. But the truth is, oh boy, this guy
right.
don't need it though. this guy, so I honestly, I think I should just stop there.
See, I'm boiling. Let me tell you, see my top three. I am boiling. And as a curricularist, that I will keep saying it, our business is in envisioning the future and writing down a template for students in current day time, or for educators or the education world, to fit into that narrative, to fit into what the outcomes, because when education is outcomes oriented, then you begin to see the reasons for change. So, or when anything is outcomes oriented, then change becomes a reality. So for me, my top three, one, as a Nigerian problem, is investment. And I keep saying it, investment. Honestly, Rotimi, I'm talking about your top three question right now. Let me be brutally honest with you. If we follow the budget, and that is for education, and we follow what we're saying here, we are not investing in education as much as we should, whether as a private citizen or a public individual. The investment is the first thing that needs to happen. We're not investing properly. For me, the second thing and the priority thing for me, what I like to say is activating student voice and choice, because they tell you your reality. We, myself, my 40-something-year-old self, we're going to describe that feature as a lazy feature, but it's not, because it is an obsolete feature. You don't really need to, please, in what world do you really need to write with your pen? In what world? Even in your own world, right now, all of you on this panel, you don't write. Do you? Let me ask you one by one. KK, do you write?
I write to Roger.
Because you have the old stuff. So you have to pen your notes down. Yeah, because you have the old stock. It's a skill that you were taught. You can't do without it. It's adaptation. So you've got to write. I write. I was going to answer the same question. I write, but because every time I talk, every time I listen to a meeting, I'm in a meeting, I have to write. But guess what? The next person who is 10 years younger than myself, or 10 years younger, his default is not to write. His default is to take his notepad and pen it, or type it down. So you write, they type.
Rhoda, my son will not pen it.
I'm coming. I'm coming to that. Listen, I'm coming to that. Simply, I agree with you. I said a decade younger, right? Now take it 2 steps down. 2 decades younger, or even 3. And guess what they will do? They will use text, they will use speech to text. They will record it. They will use their Google Lens to take a picture. They have a Google Lens on their phone. They're going to use Google Lens and they're going to scan the document, and the document is going to be written or typed out. It's not needed. And so that's for me. It's your honest investment, student activity, student voice and choice. Of course, what it is a technology. There will be 3 things. You see, sometimes when we deploy solutions to some of our public school teachers, you can tell the reason why we shouldn't have them there. But you know why we're stuck? We're stuck because we are going to find people to teachers now. Where did you find them from? Nobody wants to be in the profession that is, well, in other words, a kind of obsolete. Because nobody who is going to work in an obsolete platform, on an obsolete platform. They don't really need all those kinds of things. You want to send a memo out to teachers, the public space, you have to do it the crude way, and that's because they either have data. We're not serious. If you really want education to change or want to help some things to change, you got to invest so much. First of all, you invest in data coverage, because teachers and all these people, they have to have it as. Why don't we have broadband? Why is broadband a problem? Why? In every part of the world, all these other countries are advancing so fast. Broadband is everywhere because your phone is connected to your TV is connected to everything is connected. All of you here. I know you travel abroad, you go abroad, everybody here. You know how the internet works out there. You know they don't even need WhatsApp. I hope you know that in some countries they don't need WhatsApp because their regular phone does everything WhatsApp does. So, okay, I'll stop.
No. I'm enjoying the fire. It's been a long time we've asked for fire.
It's not funny. It's not funny because I'm stale. Guys, I'm stale. Like, my skill is stale. Because so what this part of my, do you know what my skill that is not stale? Do you know my skill that is not stale? Do you know what it is? My critical thinking is not stale. My collaboration skill is not stale, right? My conflict resolution is not stale. My teamwork is not, it will never be stale, right? My capacity to dissect a document and write a project plan or a work plan is not skill. Sometimes when we're talking creative writing, you'll be asking yourself, excuse me, guys, enough of that. What you need to do is there's just not one example of creative writing. Creative writing involves writing menus, writing recipes, coming up with a list, writing a project plan, a work plan, writing flyers, creating the short feature film scripts. That's creative writing. And so sometimes you ask yourself, what is the real change that we're looking for? Because this is the thing that they need in the world. My daughter takes a picture and I take the same picture and I'm like, man, this girl, I don't understand where you get this skill, right? She's the same place, I'm standing in the same spot. I'm taking my phone, I'm taking the same picture, but her picture will be so much better than mine. And she will tell me some of the things she's doing, some of the features on the so-called camera that I have no clue about. So activating student and voice is the reason why SARS happen. It's the reason why conversations are now kind of open, judicial fan about you. Since when did they ask you to join? What is activating with choice and voice? Guys.
Let me say this quickly, right? And it's still in the spirit of your answer to the question, right? It seems like we've now tilted the option of now looking out of ourselves, but I'm going to ask the question riding on the back of what KK said. And KK mentioned earlier that that is important for us to use a scenario like, you want people to appreciate the value of the AC. You know what? Everybody was sitting in the heat, and then people now begin to desire a better reality. Now, can we use that same energy of Rhoda and that same illustration from KK to begin to, not necessarily saying you're pointing accusing fingers, but can we place and match the energy and case for change per regulator, per administrator, per educator, so that when we are speaking, everybody feels the heat. So what's the teacher's top 3 change? What's the regulator's top 3 change? Because a lot of things that we're saying, sometimes a lot of people feel safe because it's not directed at anybody. We're just throwing it in the air. So let's say, for example, because you mentioned something around creative writing, and come to think of it, people, one has not been thinking about it that way. The fact that creative writing is creative writing doesn't mean that it has to be writing as in physical writing. That's a creative. So who does that appeal to, or who does that? Why we are portioning that to? Because for me, I would have just said, okay, if we're in the spirit of just making broad-based statement, I think one of the things that we need to know, educators must change their financial reality, right? Educators must change their financial reality. They also must change their future reality. The fact that you are in a profession that loops into continuity. So your age should not put you at a disadvantage in the sector. Just like Rhoda said, certain skills she has are stale, but certain skills she has, they are certainly not stale. And that puts her in a place of relevance and significance. And of course, I'll say the last one much later, but how do we get to do that? Because if we can easily do that in the next few seconds, then we'll take the comments, because I think we have a lot of comments in the comment section, and then we'll come back to the meat of the matter. Or maybe what I'll do is this, I'll apportion each person. So probably Rhoda should take the top 3 for the regulators, Ugochi, top 3 for, or maybe not top 3, Rhoda, just say 2, Ugochi, 2 for the teachers. Then KK should say for school owners or school system or school leadership. So very quickly, and then Titi, you will take the comments in the comment section.
So Rotimi, regulator and school leadership are going to be very similar.
Well, but I want us to be a bit specific. And you can pick any area I didn't cover. You're KK. So very quickly, we have a short time. Let's start with you, KK, by the way.
Yeah, no, please, Rhoda. Why are you like this?
Let's start with Rhoda. She has like 2 minutes.
Why is it that the cousins today are actually deflecting?
See, okay, so let me quickly start, because I know I need to jump off as soon as possible. But I mean, for the, what was mine again? See, my brain is frozen. But I think mine regulators. Okay. So I mean, I think I'll still stick with what I said earlier, which is the first one, which is investments. Like, we need to be honest about investing and try to read corruption out of education, the education sector, even any sector in the country. But I think another critical one, I mean, is I will have to be with data collection or data mining. I don't think that we collect enough data, and that's maybe sometimes the problem, because if you don't really know what your problem is. I'm fortunate to have conversations with important stakeholders in the line of my duties now, and sometimes when I hear certain conversations, it feels to me like they really don't know what exists within the public school sector, because I'm sure KK will understand what I'm saying. It's kind of confusing, because it just becomes confusing, flashing in my face. Like, why are you saying something that is not reality? For example, and I watched this. Look, we've done the mathematics. We've counted literally how many instructional days are left. And after that, when I say instructional days for the term, so-called term 1, for the public schools, I've counted, from every time there was a movement, we took out the instructional days. We knew that instructional days were going to be reduced, right? So every time there was a close shutdown, if it was 18 instructional days, it moved to 17. From 17, it moved to 16. And every day we lost 1 day. We had to make adjustments to many things. And so, for example, at some point we knew, what? We'll do away with continuous assessment. Why? Because it's less about assessment and more about learning, right? And so certain decisions were taken on a daily basis because we're following after the data that says these days are reducing, and they will have significant implication on the learning experience or the total learning time, instructional hours that children will take. And boy, how are we going to deal with that related to the examinations or assessment they're going to take, right? And so we started thinking, then of course, this whole ideology about oh, nice to have continuous assessment, might just have to leave the window. So I'm just using that as an example of trying to narrate, why data is key in driving decision making, and because then you know what your real problem is. So it's collection of data for me, for regulators, so that you really, really tell the true story of what's happening. And that's the gap, I think, is a very big gap for us, especially in the education sector, and then of course investments.
Your answer just addressed an issue. Someone sent us a message on Facebook yesterday. That was just at the end of the show, that there was a school that conducted third term via WhatsApp, and then when they resumed a little bit before this lockdown again, they did what we call maybe a promotional exam for the third term. And then a parent was complaining that they said the child cannot go to the next class, So, just like you said, the issue now is, are we putting learning first or just assessment first? Which is really the point. Okay, very quickly to Gochi quickly.
For me, I would say personal development, one, for teachers, and the second thing I would say is taking initiative. Personal development, because you can't really give above what you have, and it's really important for teachers to go out of their way to know what is going on in the world, where is the world tilting towards, and begin to improve themselves so that they stay relevant. There was something Ms. Odigo said when she said her critical thinking skills cannot be outdated, the handwriting can be outdated. So it's the same thing here. Teachers need to begin to look out and see that what are the things I need to learn so that I am not obsolete. For example, now in 2020, any teacher that has not made an attempt to know how to use technology for education, whether it's WhatsApp or Zoom, they're going to be out of the system somehow. Most especially the way it's looking that blended learning is the way forward. So you've got to make sure that you keep on developing yourself. And then the next thing for me is teachers should be willing to take initiative. Many times things may not be handed to you because maybe your boss is not even thinking about it. Your boss is thinking about the school leadership, probably thinking of the whole general education experience. So making sure that the school runs, fuel, infrastructure, and so maybe they're not really thinking about some core things that is happening in class. So you should take initiative, go up to them and say, okay, I think this is going to help. One thing I like to say to people is don't go to bosses with just the problem. Go with the problem and the solution, because if you are always coming with problem, you will be seen as a wahala person. But if you come with the problem and the solution, they just begin to see that you are taking ownership of the system, and so they begin to trust you that, okay, this is one of those that really wants this to succeed. And so teachers should stop doing this. It's not my business, or I don't care, let me just do my own and go. No, you can't just do your own and go. You have to show initiative, because it's not just about you and your class. It's even about you as a person. Because when you take initiative in one area of your life, somehow it translates to other areas of your life.
Okay, thank you so much. Keke, are you ready for us now quickly?
Yeah, so very quickly, I'm going to assume that we're in the real world in terms of the fact that the financial infrastructure we need to run an educational system is fully available. So those are the assumptions on which I'm going to base my top two. So first of all, we need to make changes in program evaluation. Program evaluation in the sense that we're looking at our programs in our schools and saying, how functional is this for nation building? In that same vein, we're not just looking at the curriculum framework, we're looking at the pedagogical interactions that are going on in the classroom with the teachers. So that's for critical. Is something that we need to begin to look at if we want change. And following quickly from that, we need to begin to work with our teachers as school owners to build recognition. So the teachers should need to understand, first of all, the teachers need to recognize it. So if I am teaching, for example, pollination, I need to understand the fact that, yes, pollination is great, but do I understand that we now have organic and inorganic ways of growing plants that have nothing to do with the natural? So there needs to be that recognition happening in the classrooms. And we need to ensure that when we're looking at what the teachers have put forth, we're showing them, because sometimes, as we have talked about, it's difficult for you to visualize what you have never seen. So and that's why as leadership, there's so many, so I'm trying to cram them all into these few seconds that Rotimi has given me. So we must, like I said, build recognition. The teachers need to have recognition so that they can teach the children to have recognition. Because if the children walk out of those classrooms and walk into the so-called real world and they don't recognize it, they cannot solve these problems. It's impossible. They cannot. So in the same vein, it's closely connected to that, is actually building leadership capacity. We must begin to build leadership capacity for change. If you do not have the capacity to change, you cannot change anything. All right, so that's how I would just run through it very quickly. Thanks, Rotimi.
So much. Thank you for running and speeding through quickly and even accusing me in between. So Titi, over to you for the comment.
Okay. Gideon SN, good morning. Always nice to have you here with us. Gideon is saying teachers might never be better than the system they work in. We have to empower teachers and cultivate new leadership skills.
Absolutely.
The regulators are different. Take a journey to the federal ministry.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Gideon, for that. So Ugochi is taking personal development and taking initiative. I think that will always be very, very important to everyone. So I think it's a continuation of Gideon's saying. He said, take a visit to Ministry of Education and you'll be shocked. We need to have a talk to push for a full curriculum change in Nigeria. Start a movement like NSET to curriculum change. Thank you, Gideon. So this is from KK. She said changes in program evaluation, working with teachers to build recognition. I think those are also very changes call. Okay, changes call for innovation and innovation to progress.
Fantastic.
King T, thank you so much for that. I agree.
It nailed it.
We need more innovation happening and really
absolutely
listen. Okay. Yes, this was from me. Your ability to see patterns is very important because also it allows you to envision the future. Very, very important. Educational leadership is the center of every change. It is more important to engage educational leaders as anything positive must come from them. Thank you, Gideon. I agree and disagree, but I agree that we need to drive a lot of things from the leadership. It makes for more impactful and high impacting change. But sometimes change can also come from non-leadership. Rhoda says education must be outcome oriented. That I think that is. We must never forget that education is not for education purposes. It's for an outcome. Gideon Essen is saying just like copying notes from the board or dictating notes in class for students, it is not a 21st century skill. Most of the time in secondary school is wasted copying notes rather than developing skills. Even in primary school, a lot of time is wasted copying notes. Just teach them. Give them things to paste in their notes. That's what I think. Yes. Another of our tribes people, Favor Idogo. Hello, good to have you with us. He said, when you say I can't, it shuts down your thought processes. But when you say I can, the how to do it shows up, making you go into action to doing that stuff. The mind is a powerful thing, the mind is a powerful thing. Even the Bible says, as a man thinks, so is he. So it's important that your mindset changes, really.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And at this point in time, we need to draw the curtain. So, Titi, you have the honors to give us your parting shot. We'll move to KK and Ugochi and then we'll close the show. It's been a great one indeed.
I feel when it comes to change, that you can change due to an internal force, or you can change due to an external force. Nigerians were less likely to change due to an internal force. We're more likely to change due to an external force. And that's why, for me, one of the top things that I would want to happen in Nigeria is for us to have fast fiber, high broadband internet, because that will be the external force that will force the education system to change by hook or by crook, because it will really level a lot of things. So that's really my parting shot.
Okay.
Yeah, so the funny thing about change is that you need to really want the change. Like Titi said, if it's internal, if it's external, you need to really want it. And no matter how much somebody else wants it for you, there'll be no lasting change if you truly do not push for it. So you just, in essence, be deceiving ourselves. So yeah, you need to find it. And if it's a school, for example, you need to actually have people who are ensuring that that change is happening. If not, look, you just waste a lot of resources and man hour for nothing. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yeah, thanks.
And safety check.
So I'll just add that once you have already determined that you are set to make this change, break it down into small and manageable steps set over a period, so that you do not get overwhelmed, and so that you're also encouraged to keep going at it.
Fantastic. And like my older brother used to say, he says, change your perception, and then you find out that you change your reality. Your reality is dependent on your perception. If your perception is right, you have a right reality. If your perception is wrong, you might end up with a wrong reality. As we step into a new month, understand this fact. This is the last Friday, and one of the best things you could do for yourself is to glean from the wisdom from TT, from Safety Chick, from Rhoda, from KK, and from our audience, Favor, from Gideon, from King T, and so many people who are saying so many things about what we need to do as educators, as education professionals, as a sector, as a people, as Africans, as a whole, as human beings in pursuit of what we want as a desired reality. Our wish for you is that your reality becomes a figment of your desired outcome. And what you need to know is you've got the power. Remember this: once you change your perception, you will always end up changing your reality. From us on the Good Morning Education Show, we wish you a great weekend. And we always say this: it's always a great morning on the
Good Morning Education Show.
All right.
Bye, everyone.